Look at this photograph. This is Deadwood, 1876. A vision of chaos and opportunity. A raw, muddy street teeming with men, oxen, and enterprise. Signs for a tin shop and even an Oyster Bay restaurant promise the comforts of civilization in the heart of the wilderness. This is the image that lured thousands to the Black Hills, a promise of fortune.
But that promise was built on this reality. For every man selling oysters, 1,000 more were knee-deep in freezing water, their backs breaking over a wooden sluice. This was the real work. Not glamorous gunfights, but a relentless battle against mud, rock, and despair. Welcome back to Old West Unseen. Today, we tell the story of the forgotten thousands who paid the true price of gold.
To understand Deadwood, you must first understand where it was built. This official U.S. government map from 1876 clearly delineates the boundaries of the Great Sioux Reservation, established by the Fort Laramie Treaty. This land, including the sacred Black Hills, was legally assigned to the Lakota people. It was not open for settlement, but just 1 year later, this prospector's map tells a different story. Rumors of gold, confirmed by Custer's 1874 expedition, triggered a massive illegal rush. Here, Deadwood and other mining camps are defiantly marked inside the reservation boundaries. Every man who went there was breaking federal law.
And so, in a remote gulch, a city erupted from nothing. In early 1876, Deadwood was little more than a sprawl of ramshackle buildings and canvas tents pushed up against the mud. It was a temporary, desperate place built on the hope of what lay buried in the creek beds. Within months, the tents gave way to 2-story wooden structures. Businesses like this tin shop appeared, providing the essential goods needed to build a town from scratch. Yet, the dense pine forest always loomed, a constant reminder of how precarious this foothold of civilization truly was. By its peak, the gulch was choked with people. Thousands of prospectors, merchants, and fortune seekers crowded the unpaved streets. The air was thick with the sound of hammers, the braying of mules, and the promise that drove them all into this isolated, illegal town. Gold, the dream of gold, began not with a lucky strike, but with the grim reality of iron. A miner's day started here, in a din cabin, sharpening his tools. A dull pick meant wasted energy, and in Deadwood, energy was a man's most valuable currency. A lonely, repetitive, but vital ritual. Then came the endless, back-breaking labor. 12 to 14 hours a day, standing in frigid water, performing the same swirling motion. Each pan was a lottery. Most held nothing but gravel and mud. The cold seeped into their bones, and the crushing disappointment seeped into their souls. Survival, however, demanded more than mining. With flour costing 3 times the Eastern price, men like McMillan and Hubbard had to be hunters. In the brutal winter of '87, a successful deer hunt wasn't a sport. It was the difference between starving or seeing the spring. This was their real treasure. And this was home. Not a cozy cabin, but a crude shack built from scrap, offering little protection from winter winds that plunged to 40 below. With no sanitation
Disease like mountain fever, typhoid, ran rampant. Many a miner died alone in a tent just like this, his body undiscovered for days. Soon, the lone prospector was replaced by a force far more powerful: industry. To feed the mines, a railroad had to be carved through the mountains. This 1890 photograph captures the raw power required. A wonderful blast that tore the landscape apart, remaking nature in the image of commerce. These were the men who planned the conquest. The engineer corps of the Deadwood Central Railroad, posing in 1888. Their formal suits seem out of place, a stark symbol of civilization imposing its rigid, calculated order upon the wild.
But their precise calculations on paper translated into torn earth and shattered rock. It was a methodical violence against the landscape the lone prospector could never have imagined, all in the service of hauling ore out and heavy machinery in. And this is what that railroad fed: the massive Deadwood and Delaware smelter. The age of panning was over. Now, gold was being ripped from hard rock on an immense scale. The smoke from these stacks signaled a new kind of gold rush, one run by corporations, not individuals. Inside the homestake mills, the scale was staggering. This is cleanup day in 1888, when machinery stopped to collect the accumulated gold. Most miners were no longer their own boss. They were wage laborers, cogs in a giant, deafening machine that crushed rock around the clock. And commerce followed. By 1878, the name Deadwood itself was a brand. Ezra Linley of St. Louis registered this trademark for Deadwood brand shovels. The rush had become a marketable concept, selling not just a dream of riches, but the very tools needed to chase it.
A town in the wilderness is an island, and its lifeline was the freight wagon. Immense trains of oxen like this crawled across the plains between Sturgis and Deadwood, hauling every necessity from flour and bacon to whiskey and tools. Without them, the town would have starved.
Their destination was a place like the Bighorn store, seen here as General Crook's pack train arrives. This was the final stop on a long, perilous journey. Here, goods were unloaded, and the wealth of the mines began its journey out, a constant flow of commerce in the heart of the hills.
But look closer at the town's social fabric. This is the champion Chinese hose team, winners of a race on July 4th, 1888. Facing intense discrimination, Deadwood's Chinese community carved out their own space, not just as laborers, but as champions, proving their skill and civic pride.
Of course, the town like Deadwood is inseparable from its legends. James Butler, Wild Bill Hickok, arrived in 1876, a celebrated lawman and gunslinger. His fame preceded him, but his time in Deadwood would be tragically short.
Because this man, Jack McCall, shot him in the back of the head during a poker game. There is nothing in this formal portrait to suggest the cowardly act he would commit, an act that defined the town's violent reputation forever.
And then there was Martha Jane Canary, better known as Calamity Jane. This 1895 studio portrait is pure performance. Dressed in buckskins, she rarely wore in daily life. She crafted a public image of a tough frontier scout. It was a story she sold to a fascinated public. A story more potent than the truth.
Beyond the legends, the official business of the frontier was a dangerous affair. This is the U.S. paymaster and his guards on the road from Fort Meade. Transporting the Army's payroll through this lawless territory required vigilance, as every bend in the road could be hiding an ambush. And here is the ultimate prize: the Wells Fargo treasure wagon with a staggering $250,000 in gold bullion from the Homestake mine. Each man clutching a rifle knew this wagon was a magnet for every desperate outlaw in the territory. Their lives were wagered against the gold in that strongbox. Then, on September 26th, 1879, disaster. A fire broke out in a bakery and swept through the wooden city. The flames reached a hardware store's powder magazine, causing a massive explosion. In a matter of hours, 300 buildings were gone. The city of gold had become a landscape of ash.
But Deadwood refused to die. The town was rebuilt, this time with more brick and stone. This view shows how the city adapted, clinging to the steep hillsides. Stairways connected stores on the main street to residences perched high above, a testament to the town's stubborn vertical growth. Viewed from Mount Moriah, the rebuilt Deadwood sprawls through the valley once more. The fire was a catastrophe, but it was not the end. The lure of gold was simply too strong. The city rose from its own ashes, fueled by the same relentless ambition that first gave it life. But booms always fade. Decades later, near Two-Bit Creek, the tools of the trade lie abandoned. This old muffle furnace was once used for assaying, the critical process of determining the purity of gold ore. Now, its fire is long cold, a hollow monument to forgotten wealth. Nearby, the skeleton of the hardened mine rusts into the earth. This massive steam boiler once powered the machinery that ripped ore from the ground. Its collapsed brickwork and silent, decaying form are a powerful symbol of industrial ambition turned to ruin. From another angle, the ruins take on an almost human quality. The two boiler ends stare out like hollow eyes from the rubble. It is the vacant stare of a ghost, a machine that once roared with power, now reclaimed by the silent woods.
Even the records of daily life fade away. In a derelict mining office, bundles of bills hang from hooks. Each slip of paper represents a transaction, a debt, a small piece of a man's financial life. Now, they are just ghosts of commerce, their stories lost to time. The grandly named Father of Desert Gold Mining Company left behind this imposing Mosler safe, built to protect immense fortunes. It now sits empty, a heavy, ornate tombstone for a company and a dream that simply vanished.
But these ruins have a human face. This is Jim Hardin in 1937. He was once a wealthy mining promoter, a man who built his fortune on the promise of Black Hills gold. But the photo's caption is stark, now on relief. His somber expression tells a story of catastrophic loss. Here, in their home, the ornate furniture speaks of a wealthier time, a past that now haunts their present. It is the private, domestic cost of a public financial failure, the long, quiet echo of a boom gone bust.
But some endured. Mrs. Christine Berg ran a boarding house in the earliest days of Deadwood. Photographed here, also in 1937, she is a survivor. Her life bridges the entire arc of the story, from the chaotic boom of the 1870s to the quiet hardship of the Great Depression. She saw it all.
In the end, what remains? The gold is gone, and the engines have rusted into silence. We are left with ghosts and legends. Here is Calamity Jane, years later, by the grave of Wild Bill Hickok. The wild frontier persona is gone, replaced by quiet remembrance. The true history of the West isn't just in the celebrated graves of its icons, but in the unmarked burial grounds of the thousands of miners who succumbed to disease and despair. Their names are lost, but their collective struggle is the unseen truth of Deadwood.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the real Deadwood. The past is vast, and every photograph holds a story. If there's a particular person, place, or unseen moment from the Old West you'd like us to explore, please share your suggestions in the comments below. Your insights often guide our next story. If you found value in this one, a like and subscribe helps us uncover more of them.